Independence Day! So join us today at Rolling Through History as we look into what caused the greatest breakup letter ever to be written. Declaration Day, Independence Day, the birth of this nation. These are all names we associate with the holiday of July 4th, the day in 1776 where the colonists in America said no more to King George's tyranny and signed the Declaration of Independence. A declaration that has since changed the course of history in the world in many ways, thus sealing the birth of the new nation. But question though, you see, we all know July 4th is America's birthday, but are you just a bit curious as to what exactly happened that day? What is so interesting about that day that sealed its fate as one of the biggest holidays in America? Well, join us at Rolling Through History today as we dive into July 4th of 1776 and trying to understand what all happened that created, well, America. So in order for us to properly understand why the Founding Fathers declared independence from Great Britain, I think we need to first recap on what led to independence. Remember, up until the conclusion of the French and Indian War in 1763, the American colonies enjoyed a rather high level of autonomy over daily governance. They voted on laws, elected representative positions, and overall ran their colonies with rather little control from the king all the way over in England. Well, until 1776, that is, when the king began implementing taxes on common goods, such as sugar, stamps, paper, and really most things people bought. Not to forget that those taxes had to be paid in pounds sterling. You know, not the colonists' everyday currency. So naturally, colonists get upset. I mean, I would too if I had to pay for taxes I didn't vote for and had to purchase an entirely new currency value that my colony didn't even provide just to pay for it. So in 1776, King George completely apologizes for his ways and removes all taxes from the colonies. Actually, I'm kidding. He issues a declaratory act, which basically says, I'm the king, you're the peasant, obey me. And by me, I mean the British troops, who now get to be the muscle behind the laws. Now, they get to control everyone, enforce taxes, etc. Basically, they become the king's enforcement arm. Also, the king declares all the troops will be boarded in the homes of the colonists. I mean, have you ever seen a barracks party online? Imagine that, but in your own home. So the colonists get pretty mad. And by 1770, protests, riots, and mobs began causing violent outbursts between the two factions. One such occasion happened on March 5th of 1770. The Boston Massacre left 5 colonists dead after a group of soldiers fired into a drunken crowd of angry Bostonians after a soldier assaulted a young boy, after they were found innocent of any manslaughter charges.
Many Bostonians became enraged, so they began protesting the British occupation of Massachusetts. Protests in the form of not unloading British ships and loads, or piracy and smuggling of goods to offset the taxes and ultimately undermine British authority. In 1773, Bostonians dressed as Native Americans and boarded 3 ships belonging to the East India Company, a British owned trading company. There, they dumped the tea and other merchandise into the harbor, the event now known in history as the Boston Tea Party. After the Boston Tea Party goes down, the crown gets really lit, and Parliament passed the Coercive Acts. Now, the Coercive Acts, well, they were designed to do exactly what it sounds like. I mean, to coerce the colonists in Massachusetts to obey the king. Essentially, the Navy blockades the Boston ports and forces Bostonians to repay the lost items. And by repay, I mean Bostonians can only purchase British goods, and businesses are forced to pay extra taxes and, well, many more things. In fact, colonists began calling the Coercive Acts the Intolerable Acts. This is when ship owners like John Hancock start smuggling goods in and out of the colonies.
So in September of 1774, the colonists, fed up with the tomfoolery, what's going on, elect representatives from each colony to meet in Philadelphia and discuss options of what to do. Now, the rebellion was primarily a Massachusetts matter. However, the issues facing the colonies was a continentally felt sentiment. Most delegates voiced their support for Massachusetts. Well, almost all. You see, Georgia, a colony surrounded by both French and Spanish colonies, as well as native tribes who were pro-British and warring with the colony for pro-British loyalty. So the Congress, also referred to as the First Continental Congress, elected to fund colonial militias to battle all opposition colonists would face, whether natives, general issues, or British troops. They also established a Declaration of Rights and Grievances. Essentially, they established different rights and things they were upset with and that the king had done against them, and sent to the king for approval. So, now things are getting serious. Not only did the colonists just select representatives to take care of their own issues, but those electives voted to fund militia groups to oppose British enforcement. And they just declared the colonists now have rights separate from the king's authority. So the colonies began sending supplies via guns, powder, ammo, etc. into Massachusetts in order to support the rebels. Now, Ben Franklin, a well-known spokesman for Pennsylvania and profound patriotic thinker, is elected by the Continental Congress to begin drumming up support from France for war with Britain, should it come to that. You see, everyone knew that war was on the horizon, both Britain and the colonies alike. However, the question was, when and what kind of war? So Ben Franklin, 4 other pro-rebellion electives, go to Europe in order to establish partnership with France. France's issue, though, there is no war going on in the colonies, just armed businessmen causing trouble, really. So in April of 1775, after a few armed skirmishes with tax offices in Boston, British troops are ordered to march on the towns of Lexington and Concord. Here are known hangouts for pro-patriotic forces, as well as their stockpiles of weapons. When they arrive in Lexington, troops are met with 70 or so militiamen ready to fight. Now, let's be clear here. You see, British troops were not ordered to fire on Americans. However, upon arrival at the field in Lexington, bayonets fixed, troops began marching on the militiamen in order to disperse them. Now, British troops were trained to keep their muskets at half-cock while marching with bayonets. However, this leaves exposed powder in the pan, ready with a ready flint. And as they were marching, a shot rings out. Now, no one knows where it came from at the time. However, both British and militiamen begin firing on each other. When the smoke clears, several dead colonists lie dead. This incident becomes known as the shot heard round the world, the official start to an armed war. So here we are, war. Fighting begins happening around Massachusetts, armed rebellion against Britain. So the Continental Congress convenes again in May. Here they elect George Washington, a decorated colonel from Virginia, who fought in the French and Indian War, to lead the Continental Army. They also receive an update from Mr. Franklin on France. You see, it turns out France and Spain are willing to assist the colonists, except for one sticky little problem. You see, the colonists aren't recognized as a legitimate nation, just a bunch of rebel colonists. So Congress elects Thomas Jefferson to write an official Declaration of Independence from England. This declaration is to be agreed and signed by all delegates of the Continental Congress. So Thomas Jefferson submits his first copy of the Declaration to the Congress for approval, and, well, not everyone approves. You see, he does an amazing job discussing how humans are designed to self-govern, but a few of the grievances listed wouldn't sit well with France or Spain, particularly his grievance towards slavery. In his first draft, he describes a dreadful trade placed on the colonies by the crown that values human lives as equal to their labor. Now, France and Spain run a bunch of very wealthy colonies just south of North America, and well, slave labor is the main labor source for those colonies. Now, if you're trying to get France's help for the war, why would you grieve a huge supply of their income? So Jefferson decides to redo his declaration. And on July 2nd of 1776, all members of the Second Continental Congress approve it and sign it. Here, he discusses how a free man is endowed by his creator with unalienable rights, such as life, liberty, and his own pursuit of happiness. He also lists grievances towards the crown for the injustices done to the colonies. And on July 4th, the Congress mails it to England and France, thus certifying July 4th is the day America officially becomes an independent country.